Hello and good afternoon. I wanted to make a quick video on a previous video I had made, which was me reading the obituary that Murray Rothbard had wrote to Che Guevara, and I had some friends, particularly a lot of Cuban friends, who were asking me because they're very shocked by this, that Murray Rothbard had written a obituary to che Guevara, possibly one of the most famous communists or infamous communists of the 20th century. And to me, it wasn't really a shocking revelation or anything, because when you read Murray Rothbard during his time in the New Left, it's it should be apparent, And so I just kind of wanted to, yeah, like I said, just try is maybe a better way to say it. Try to make a quick video as to why that was the case, and some other things. So again, I had pointed out Murray Rothbard's time in the old, not the old, the New Left, and Murray Rothbard was a man during his youth who was trying to make alliances with a lot of not libertarians, but people he believed who, though they weren't libertarians, they had principles or end goals similar to libertarianism. Because at that time, he felt that the old right was no longer a thing, and that the new right were just these war hawks who were trying to send Americans to die in the Vietnam War, whereas the new left were the only ones that were not only calling out American interventionism, but also an end to the American war and American imperialism overall. So one thing too that you find really interesting, that Murray Rothbard's time in the New Left is his writings, particularly about Vladimir Lenin. And I said I was going to talk about Che, but it's really interesting to see how these people are tied together, even though they've never really met. And that is because of the ideology of Marxist-Leninism. And see, Lenin in his time had made a call for professional revolutionaries, that he believed that what he called the vanguard party must be led by the professional revolutionaries of the party, that these people were not just simple ideologues, that this wasn't just some debating club, some place for us to hang out and drink tea, but no, these were people whose whole goal in life and everything was the revolution, and that was who was to lead everything. Well, again, the vanguard party, I should say, correct myself. And ultimately, this is actually how you can say that the Bolsheviks achieved their goal. And it's actually, it's undeniable for us as paleolibertarians or libertarians to deny this, that the Bolsheviks, through this mindset, had achieved their goal. And Murray Rothbard had admitted this to himself. And so he began to really make this call during his time in the New Left, when on his writings of admiration towards Vladimir Lenin. I forget what there's one in particular I'm thinking about. It's in the Volkner private writings that were it's literally like the first page. I apologize. But that's my point, though, is that this admiration really stems from Lenin's call for professional revolutionaries to really lead the case. And not Lenin. Rothbard isn't calling for like violence or anything, but it's something that we as libertarians have to, again, libertarians, paleo-libertarians, have to really ask ourselves is who is leading our movement? Because I didn't even really pay attention to the last election, because I thought the whole I don't remember the woman's name, whatever her name was, and Spike Cohen. I was just like, this is just ridiculous, and I'm going to admit some bias because at the time I was heavily influenced by the writings of Ted Kaczynski, so I didn't really particularly feel comfortable with a female psychologist leading the party, let alone her podcaster VP choice. I just thought it was really. And in particular, I should admit, I don't necessarily know everything about Spike Cohen. Sometimes I see some things that I don't disagree with, but it's still like I feel like these are poor choices to lead for any movement. You know what I mean? It's just, we need better figures leading us in the future. Because it's like I said in a video I released a couple days ago, me yammering on about drugs and particularly hard drugs, but it's that this country is fucking tearing it's tearing itself apart right now. We can see it in live action, and if you're not buying gold, silver, any precious metals and ammunition, then I don't know what to tell you. If you're not preparing, then you're already fucking yourself over. I don't know how else to tell you. So. We need actual leaders to lead us, not just these eggheads, these Poindexters, these would-be armchair philosophers. It's like, no, we don't got time for that anymore. We see everything tearing itself apart now, so we don't have time to dilly-daggle. and that's where I really do agree with Rothbard. Because what you see with Che is that he was, again, look at Che. He's a man that lived nearly 100 years ago, who we still talk about today, who is, and for better or for worse, but that's not the point. Is that this is a man who's remembered, again, better for worse. And I'm trying to really pick my words because I'm not really trying to seem like I'm some type of communist apologist or whatever, because that's not, again, because see, the interesting thing about figures like Lenin or Che is that they achieved their goals. And that's what I'm trying to beat into the heads of libertarians and paleolibertarians, that despite the philosophical handicaps of Lenin and Che, they achieved their goals. The Soviet Union existed for over 70 years, and Cuba today is still calling itself Marxist-Leninist or whatever, and they still have like Che Guevara Boulevard and all that such. I tried to get my Cuban friend to get me a Che shirt, and he was like, "Nah, bro, my mom's gonna get mad." So that's just my point. These people achieved their goals, and we as libertarians, like, what have we achieved yet? As much as I love the Mises Institute, we still need more. We don't have anything and that's another thing. We have nearly existed a lot, not just in this country, but also abroad. And it feels like we are still so politically obscure, though you can show anyone a photo of Che Guevara, and they will for the most part understand that this is some political figure, famous or infamous, whatever, because it really depends on the context of where you're from. I've known a lot of South Americans to where they view Che as a hero, as a folk hero, but I've known Argentinians particularly who view Che in a nasty light. So, but you show anyone Mises or Rothbard or Benjamin R. Tucker, Proudhorn, I actually once asked a Frenchman if he knew anything about Pierre Joseph Proudhorn, and he was like, no, but there was a trades union, that would protect workers' job in France called Proudhorn. So he was like, is that like related? And I was just like, I don't know. I'm not, but it makes me wonder. And another actually thing that's really interesting, especially when you take into account people like Lenin, is that it's not just Rothbard that shares this fascination for Lenin, but also infamous figures like James Mason. I'm not going to say of who, but if you know who James Mason is, then you essentially know who why he's infamous. So Google him of your own accord. But when you read James Mason's works, he calls himself a vanguardist, and he admits his love for people like Lenin and Mao. And why is this? Is because they achieve their goals. Everything that they set forward to do toward their country, the countries that they affected, are still remembering the legacy of these people, for better or for worse. I've known Russian women who tell me that their parents sometimes miss the Soviet Union. I've known Chinese nationalists who love Mao, despite learning of some of the things that he's done while living in America. So it just really, it really makes me wonder. But all that really to say that this is why Murray Rothbard wrote an obituary to Che Guevara. Because Che Guevara was a man who, despite, again, his political handicaps, achieved everything he set forward to do, and lived a life quite radical compared to a lot of the armchair philosophers that are currently alive today. I was watching this one podcast where someone was kind of afraid of some political imagery that was being used, like of skulls and such, and I don't necessarily blame them, because again, if you're it is kind of biased of me, because I not that I'm of a military background, but my family is of a military background. So you see the use of imagery like skulls and crossbones and all that such, knives and whatever, loyalty before dishonor, and to outsiders this seems pretty harsh, but to me this seems like, especially as some type of brotherhood, quite normal. And this is what I'm talking about, is that this brotherhood of revolutionaries is something that's only really possible through some type of political movement that really sees itself now further from the political limitations of what's going on, I believe. Like I, as much as I don't believe there's a political solution now in 2024, I don't also really know if we're ready for political revolutionaries like that either, like Che Guevara. But we need to start seeing ourselves outside the system anymore, because I don't believe that my vote counts, and I know for a fact there are many more Americans like me who don't believe their vote matters, and believe that the election was not only stolen, but it's going to be rigged now come 2024, 2025. So it's so what do we do? Do we just keep fooling ourselves, or do we begin to realize that, despite, again, the political handicaps of Che and Lenin and even Mao, that these people, how they lived, achieved something? And this isn't a call for violence, not at all. But it's to tell libertarians that we have to start thinking of ourselves as revolutionaries, and have to start thinking of our politics as more than just an intellectual armchair, but as revolutionary. Because personally, I'm really kind of sick of you kind of see it now that a lot of libertarians were associated with being dorks, where we got the bow ties and everything, but like no, we have to start kind of talking like how communists talk, where we have to say that when we overthrow the state, we're going to, that's what we got to start saying. When we overthrow the state. Not anymore of this, I feel like there's a lot of pacifist talking, and we can't, and it seems compromising. We have to start talking like revolutionaries. I apologize that now I'm making these awkward pauses and such, because I'm still, because again, I'm not trying, this isn't a call for violence or whatever. It's again, it's just me saying that we have to start being and acting like revolutionaries. But I don't know, eventually just, I don't want to say now, but it's just so hard to say that there's going to be some crazy political decline. And I pray it's not anytime soon. I pray it's 100 years from now. But when that time comes, brave men and women have to start being revolutionaries beyond pacifism.
Face it, what we have now is a fragile chain of agents and contacts spread thin across Europe and Russia. It's we who are weak. We're emigres, dilettante, intellectual, unreliable. We must change that. And we must begin with ourselves if we are to create an organization of professional revolutionaries whose duty is to devote not only their free evenings, but their whole life to working for the revolution. In a year, we must have built the embryo of a party. Each cell working implicitly from the nucleus, the center, the source of power.